love the Evil Dead series. I love it so fucking much. I'm so excited. I'm so excited to be talking about this. It's gonna be so much fun. Hey guys, and welcome back to Scream Theory. I am so excited about the topic of today's video. So we're going to be doing another new release kind of wrap up, a new release in-depth analysis of film, and we're doing it for one of my all-time favorite movie series ever, the Evil Dead series, and the new installment, Evil Dead Rise. So exciting! I know that there's a man doing painting right there. Hello, painting man. Okay, you're gonna do your thing, I'm gonna do my thing. We're gonna be fine. I know I have been talking about this Ari Aster video for the past 2 videos that I've put up. It is coming. I'm committing to it being my next video, so just stay tuned. It's coming. We're gonna be deep diving into Ari. Don't you fucking worry. We're gonna get there. We're gonna get there. I love the Evil Dead series. I really don't have that much to say other than I fucking love the Evil Dead series, and I'm so excited to be talking about this. And I am sorry that this video is a little bit late, but without further ado, let's just jump into it, am I right? Let's do it. A couple of things to note before we dive into the plot. Sam Raimi and Bruce Campbell serve as executive producers on the film, with both being heavily involved, but Lee Cronin directing. Previously, he's directed the delightfully creepy Hole in the Ground. Changelings give me the fucking willies. I hate them so much. We start off with a fucking hilarious cold open on this one, guys, so strap in. Opening up, we're in the POV of what, if you're a fan of the franchise, you'll recognize as the demonic deadite entity flying through the woods and heading directly towards a girl, Teresa, who's sitting reading by a lake. But then, boom! This is a modern movie, baby! We're just following her cousin's asshole boyfriend's drone POV. And he thought it would be hilarious to almost kill her with the blades of his drone. These are pretty nothing characters, so no need to dive in much further than both of them mention Teresa's cousin Jessica has fallen sick and is napping in the cabin they've rented for her birthday. Teresa, annoyed by Caleb, I only just found out that was even his name, goes back to the cabin to check on Jessica, and surprise, surprise, she is acting a wee bit twitchy and creepy, always a great sign, before falling to the floor and having a fit. When Teresa goes to try and make sure she's okay, Jessica rips her scalp off with her bare fucking hands. Somehow the scalped girl makes it back to the dock where Caleb is still fucking around with his drone, and Jessica grabs said drone and shoves it in her own face, slashing her up good before collapsing into the water, prompting Caleb to dive in after her, somehow, and swiftly being decapitated. Jessica then rises out of the lake and the title card rises up with her. Get it? Evil Dead Rise. I absolutely fucking cackled in the cinema, and all 4 people that were also in the cinema thought I was literally insane. I thought it was fucking funny. Okay, on to the main storyline. I don't think this is going to be a very long video, by the way. Whilst there is plot and lore, this movie is still an Evil Dead movie, and thus 80% straight horror violence, deadite showdowns, and all that shit, which we love. So 24 hours earlier, yep, that's right, we're going to figure out how all this happened. We're introed to our main protagonist, Beth, a guitar tech who discovers she's pregnant, doesn't seem too happy about it, and immediately yoinks herself off to her sister's place. We can sense that there's some tension almost straight away between the 2 sisters, with Ellie living in her Los Angeles apartment complex with her children. Danny, a wannabe DJ, Bridget, a character who is completely reduced to being a woke activist by like 3 lines she says at the start of the movie, and the youngest Cassie, who I felt at least was either going to turn into a deadite immediately or survive at the end. No in between for 7-year-olds in horror movies, as we know. Ellie will take on the role as our main deadite antagonist throughout the film and does an absolutely amazing job at being fucking terrifying. Her flexibility, her smile, everything about this actress is just perfect. Her performance is absolutely outstanding. Also, we have so many fucking Aussies in this movie, and I cannot for the life of me find out why. The 2 sisters and Danny are all Australian, but my research has turned up nothing as to why this is the case. So if you know, please let me me know, as Lee Cronin is Irish, so I'm very confused. But my best guess is that since filming took place in New Zealand, maybe they held castings nearby, because the trio of brothers they live next door to are Kiwi. So I don't know. Anyway, moving on. Let me know if you know. Fun fact, on the Extravision podcast, director Lee Cronin revealed that all the characters' names were named after actors that had previously appeared in the Evil Dead series. Another fun fact, back-to-back fun facts. On the show Extravision, director Lee Cronin shared that the name of the building the movie takes place in, the Mond, is an anagram of demon. Oh my god, so smart. Whilst Ellie is holding Beth accountable for never being around and not being there for her when her husband and the kids' scumbag dad walked out on them, the kids go to pick up pizza as it's an argument, and that's not safe family environments. An earthquake suddenly hits the building whilst they're in the parking lot on the way back, and they discover a massive hole that has opened up in the parking lot, revealing an old bank vault. They've briefly mentioned this scary ghost story of an old bank teller who still remains haunting the building after it was built over the top of this like old abandoned bank, by the way. Just irrelevant, but mentioned in the film. So Danny, a resident idiot in this film, if you've seen the Evil Dead movies, you know what I mean. There's always one bitch-ass idiot that wants to translate the evil Latin book. So he jumps into the hole to investigate and discovers an underground chamber that is literally filled to the brim with crucifixes. Like, these things are hanging from the ceiling, like those light shops, those old ones that you go past and you just gawk at how much the electricity must cost for them. I'm not religious, but this would be a good enough sign for me to yeet myself out of there and never return. Like, that's someone else's problem. Instead, Danny decides to go straight for a literal tomb and pull out a dusty old book from a crack that's formed in the side during the earthquake. He also found some old vinyl records nearby as well, which will become relevant very soon. Heading back upstairs, Danny immediately goes to play with his new toys, and we discover, surprise, surprise, the book is the third volume of the Naturam Demonto, aka the Necronomicon, and our audio companion guide that always lives alongside it is in the form of these 3 vinyls, which quickly reveal themselves to be from a group of priests who formally researched the book in secret as they were turned down by the church to do so. Despite protests being heard on the audio and Danny himself starting to get a bit creeped out and trying to stop the record from playing, the recording plays the priests reciting the incantation within the book, unleashing the Deadites and effectively dooming everyone in the building. Spoiler alert, but if you've never seen an Evil Dead movie, they tend not to have the happiest of endings, so strap in, kids. But we do have a fun fact. Bruce Campbell features in a voice-only cameo role heard in a recording on one of the phonograph records from 1923. Campbell voices an unnamed character who forewarns the priest to the dangers of the demon resurrection ritual, shouting, "It's called the Book of the Dead for a reason," after urging the priest to stop. Writer-director Cronin stated that he had Campbell voice this role intentionally, stating that he considers it to be a time-displaced Ash Williams. As we've seen with Army of Darkness, Ash travels all over time and space to fight those Deadites, so this is now canonically another one of his adventures. Maybe we'll get a movie out of it one day. Him going back in time and doing Vatican Deadite things. We love to see it. Power in the building cuts off just as Ellie is on her way back from throwing away the trash, and she unfortunately gets possessed in the elevator in a way that is very reminiscent of our usual Forest Vine scenes, but utilizing elevator cables, and sans that particularly rapey part that I always thought was kind of unnecessary. Even Sam Raimi has said that he thought it was unnecessary and he regrets putting it in the original. So she returns to the apartment in a trance, and here is where we get to see Ellie's actor, Alyssa Sutherland, really shine. Limping into the apartment, she menacingly makes breakfast before threatening the family and collapsing, throwing up a supernatural amount of gross green bile, and we see our last glimpse of non-Deadite Ellie push through as she screams to her sister to not let them hurt her babies before collapsing dead. Alongside neighbours Gabrielle, played by Jaden Daniels, and Mr. Fonda, played by another Kiwi actor, Mark Mitchinson, who had a cameo role in motherfucking Underworld Rise of the Lycans. Who remembers that series? They lay Ellie to rest in her bed with the plan of leaving her there until they can get through to the authorities. As Beth is apologising and saying goodbye to her sister, Ellie blinks in a truly horrifying way, and everyone has a single moment of rejoicing that she's still alive before she brutally attacks them, going for Bridget and cutting her cheek with a knife before grossly sucking on it as Beth drags her off of her. It's not looking too good for Bridget if you know how the Deadite curse spreads. Beth and the kids are able to lock Ellie outside, and we watch through the keyhole as she brutally murders all of the neighbors, including Gabrielle's 2 younger brothers who are literal children. I never thought I'd see a 5-year-old have their arms ripped off, and to be honest, even though I know that this is an Evil Dead film, since there's been so much hype and a group of kids in the trailer and like it was very like commercially viable looking, I kind of thought they were going to tone it down with the murder and not kill the children. I don't know why I thought that, because that's like half of the fucking characters, so they would be killing no one if they didn't kill them. I should have known better, but all of this we get to watch through the keyhole in the apartment door, which has made picking up my Uber Eats outside my own keyhole apartment door a very different experience. We snap over to Bridget, who appears to be having a difficult time with her wound in the kitchen, seeing it's become black and rotted as she begins throwing up bugs and experiencing generally horrible things. When Danny is first playing around with the Necronomicon, they focus in on 4 pages with imagery, and the film will continuously cut back to these pages as the Deadites' rise grows throughout the film and the ritual continues through its phases. When we see these pickies, it generally doesn't mean good things for the person, so unfortunately for Bridget, she's being compared to an image of a tentacle-mouthed screaming person in the book, so kind of gives us a little sign of what's about to happen. Whilst all this mess is going on in the kitchen, Ellie is using her Deadite powers to convince the youngest child, Cassie, into letting her in. I was screaming at the screen, but I guess she's like 5 or 6, and it is her mum, even if she did just see her rip a kid's arms off. I don't know. Of course, Ellie immediately attacks Cassie, and Danny has to grab her, taking Cassie back to her room as Beth fights off Ellie and manages to push her back outside the apartment. Meanwhile, in the kitchen, things are escalating, with black liquid beginning to ooze out of every one of Bridget's orifices. After Beth fights off Ellie and manages to lock her back outside, she hears weird noises in the kitchen and finds Bridget perched on the counter of the kitchen in a squat, facing away from her with horrifying noises coming from the corner. We all know what's about to happen except for fucking Beth, apparently, as she approaches her, finding Bridget possessed, chewing on glass in the only scene, weirdly, that made me feel really sick in the whole movie. That close-up of her swallowing the glass was absolutely horrifying. I fucking hated it. We all have our thing. Bridget attacks Beth with a cheese grater and gets her in the leg. So gross. And then goes to attack Danny and Cassie, but runs straight into a previously broken stick that Cassie was playing with, impaling herself directly on it and supposedly dying. Danny wraps her body in a bedsheet and ties her up, which I cannot imagine how traumatizing that would be to do to your sister's corpse, but he handles it like a damn champ, probably beating himself up for causing all these things. Finally, shit's gotten real enough for Danny to let Beth know about the demon merch he found in the hole in the ground, and she locks all the kids out of the room and puts on what appears to be noise-cancelling headphones to listen to the tapes. I understand why she did it, obviously, not wanting anyone else to be affected by the Deadite curse and protecting the kids in the case that she gets possessed, but it's honestly such a fucking stupid idea. She has no idea what's going on literally directly behind her, let alone what's happening to the 2 children that were left in her care in the next room over. Anyway, predictably, Bridget awakens in a terrifying way, floating like a classic ghost with the bedsheet over her head, but with definitely more murdery vibes than Casper had in that fucking Hilary Duff movie. She attacks Danny and Cassie and fatally stabs the former in the chest, but not before Danny is able to light her on fire. Another traumatizing moment, seemingly killing her for the 2nd time. Beth is still listening to the soothing tones of priestly musings as all this is going on, and Cassie is now completely unsupervised as Ellie escapes the hallway through the vents. A brief side plot that was used at the start of the movie to intro us to all the neighbors is that Mr. Fonda's cat got spooked by the earthquake and escaped up into the vents. So you hear his meows every now and then, which alerts Deadite Ellie to another route into the apartment. So just a little note about the cat. Fun fact, with the cat, director Lee Cronin confirmed online that the cat seen and heard in the vents of the apartment complex does in fact survive the events of the film, which we love to see, although a deadite cat would probably be badass, to be fair, and it would definitely take over the world faster than the fucking stupid humans are. Deadite Ellie uses the vents to break into Danny's room, Beth not noticing anything due to the supreme power of noise-cancelling headphones. Such a fucking stupid idea. And Ellie attacks her, although Beth at the last second sees Ellie's reflection in the window in front of her and so is able to dodge just in time. Their fight finally takes them outside the room, and Cassie throws Beth a pair of scissors, which she uses to fight off Ellie. She registers the dead children around her. and how she's done a horrible job of protecting these kids, and runs into the hallway with Cassie in an attempt to escape the building. As a note here, the staircase was destroyed during the earthquake, so they're forced to take the elevator. And there was a brief side plot of everybody trying to break into the neighbor's apartment to use the fire escape, but it's quickly abandoned when Ellie and the newly possessed bodies of both Danny and Bridget follow them into the hallway. We get a nice little, very like Nightmare on Elm Street-esque taunting, with all the corpses claiming that they'll be dead by dawn. They continue to taunt Beth and Cassie, with the neighbor bodies now joining in as they attempt to escape via the elevator, and we get to watch as all of the corpses fuse into Ellie's body. Another flash of the Necronomicon pages, and they create a multi-limbed abomination which narrowly misses the closing elevator doors. We're balls to the wall here, kids, and I fucking love it. We're clearly in our final act and we've got fucking crawly body things, but their escape is short-lived as the elevator begins flooding with blood, resulting in the wires snapping and it falling to the ground level and allowing them to escape into the parking lot. Fun fact, Cronin stated the film used over 6,500 litres of fake blood, and I have to assume that most of it was in this biblical flood of blood spewing from the elevator. It was very badass and very fun. Beth and Cassie attempt to escape, but Cassie is captured by the abomination before they can do so because she's been fucking useless this whole film. The abomination attempts to kill Cassie with our obligatory motherfucking chainsaw, but is taken out by Beth, who manages to wrangle the chainsaw off of them and force the abomination into a massive wood chipper that's been chilling in the car park for the whole movie. It hasn't been relevant till now, so I haven't mentioned it, but we all knew it was going to come into play at some point. It's a fucking huge wood chipper. All that is left of the abomination is Ellie's decapitated head, which taunts Beth about being a shit mum and a shit sister, which is true on both counts, and with a final fuck you, Beth kicks it into the wood chipper, finally killing her and escaping the building with Cassie. They're going to be spending tens of thousands of dollars on Cassie's therapy. I'm going to tell you that because it's a fucked up night. So, on to how all this connects with our opening scene. In the most ridiculous plotline ever, it turns out that Jessica lives on the floor below our protagonists. They show her waltzing out of her apartment as though she's heard nothing, nothing's happened, the entire floor seems completely fine, the elevator is working perfectly, everything is fine. We watched Ellie use the vents to gain access to the apartment, and clearly the elevator was working slightly for Beth and Cassie to escape. So I don't understand how we don't have a whole building of possessed deadites, but she gets to the parking lot. We see some rapid movements from what can be assumed to be unseen deadites, which in my headcanon are possessed people from other floors. I reckon shit went down throughout the whole building and Jessica was just completely oblivious. Slash was a pawn in the deadites' plan to keep spreading their curse outside of the building. She gets attacked and screams in terror, and thusly we have reached the end and gone full circle, and that's the end of the film. Fuck, I fucking love Evil Dead movies. They're so damn good and so damn ridiculous and brilliant, and there's nothing else like them out there, and it feels amazing as an actual fan of the series to have a really great entry come out of what originally was only meant to be an exclusive release through HBO Max via direct-to-streaming. But it performed so strongly during test screenings that the studio decided to release it theatrically instead, which was clearly a great idea as it made $90 million at the box office against a $15 million budget. Evil Dead Rise has very much been framed as a renewal of the franchise with a planned trilogy ahead of us, and I cannot wait. I loved the previous one with Jane Levi in it, or Levy, or however you say it. and they never continued those. So I hope this gets a proper trilogy. They seem to be talking about it. Don't get me wrong, I do love Ash vs. the Evil Dead. I was sad it got cancelled. But being able to watch these movies in the cinema is just so fucking cool. And I'm so excited to see where Cronin, Raimi, and Campbell go with the next ones. Hopefully Ash makes a cameo, eh? So what did you guys think of The Evil Dead Rise? Did it live up to the hype? Was it a good addition to the Evil Dead lore? Let me know down in the comments. I know I've been promising this Ari Aster video for a while now, so I'm actually going to commit myself to making it, as I said at the start. This is going to be the next video on my channel, so bear with me if it takes a second to get it uploaded. I haven't seen Beau is Afraid yet, but I'm hearing very cool and also kind of conflicting things, so I can't wait to hit that one up. In the meantime, if you enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up, and if you're into what I'm doing here, please feel free to subscribe. See you next time, back here on Scream Theory. Oh, I'm fucking... Oh, Jesus Christ.